Hi, and welcome to the blog today. Let's see. I read an article that, of course, all these things all make me think, and it takes me in and out of different areas of security that I've actually been in. And this article is a really technical article. Actually about a scanning injection flaw vulnerability with Nortec Linear Emerge E3 systems, which are basically used to control door access systems. And for the tech people, the CVE is a CVE 2019 7256. So this vulnerability was actually came out last year, and it's actually those systems, those door access systems, are used in several industries, whether it be including banking, commercial, medical, industrial, and retail. So just think how people get into the actual building that they work in. That's essentially a door access system. And so there's this vulnerability which allows hackers to remotely access those individual devices and basically own them, and be able to use them for anything, including what's being used. And what's currently out there is denial of service attack cases, distributed denial of service attack cases, DDoS basically. And they're getting into those systems with this vulnerability and using them to launch attacks, right? And so this of course got me to thinking about the intersection of physical security and cybersecurity. So I've been in several places in my career in corporate America and in government. Within government, when I was working for the FBI and I sat as their information security officer, I reported to the physical security office. So security was in one bucket, and it didn't matter what type of security it was, whether it is physical security and how to build a building or access systems, or whether the cyber systems or the computer systems with which we use, classified, unclassified, and other. Um, and so it all sat under one place, human resources security. If it ended beginning and ended with security, it sat under the chief security officer. Well, of course, when you go into corporate America, that changes. Organizations historically never know what to do with the information security, cybersecurity folks. You have the chief information security officer. Some people have one, some people don't. Then physical security usually sits in the actual, cops that sit out in front of the door to prevent people from access. Door access systems are normally not those things that your chief information security officer actually has a purview into. And so you have these segmented, right? And so what do you do when you have this cybersecurity IT related vulnerability in systems that are physical security type of systems? And so how do you transfer that information? How do you find out if there is this particular access system that your company's using or anything like that? The communication has to be there. Now, I've seen chief information security officers, CISOs, 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 however you want to pronounce that word, sit under the chief security officer, which would make sense in a security perspective. I've seen that position report into legal. I've seen that position report into the chief financial officer. I've seen the information security world, the cybersecurity world, report into multiple different verticals within a corporation. Right or wrong, and most of the time you'll see it reporting into the CIO. I will go on record to say I think that's a wrong place for a chief information security officer to be. I'll go on record and say that, okay, because of the CIO's responsibilities may be, and at some times will be, in conflict with the chief information security officer's purview and their responsibilities. Just essentially, security would take a backseat to functionality, or potentially functionality of a particular application, or if IT and security has a conflict of interest. Usually that CIO is going to be worried about the business and actually getting that um, product release system, whatever the application, whatever it is, out to the business more so than worrying about the CISO. But okay, anyway, getting back to my physical security and cybersecurity intersection. So, you physical security has rarely been in corporate under or reported into or even communicated with the cybersecurity side of the house. Now, when I was an executive in those functions, I always tried to seek out individuals in those functional roles, just mainly because of things like this. You have a Internet of Things, an IoT door access system that has a vulnerability in it, and if those physical security systems are not segmented, meaning they sit on the same system as your average employee coming in, that exposes the entire infrastructure, network infrastructure, to vulnerability because they can get in. The article talks about the scanning that's happening right now, and there's an uptick in scanning for this particular vulnerability on IPv4 address ranges. So essentially, you can use a technology to scan the internet, anything connected to the internet, for a particular vulnerability. That's how attackers find these vulnerabilities. And if the vulnerability is existing on a system that is actually attached to your entire network, and you haven't had good hygiene in regards to segmentation, that exposes your whole network. Just think Target, HVAC vendor, have access to the network, get to the point of sale devices. That no segmentation right there, based on access, based on where they're coming in, IP, anything. So just think about how someone could utilize a remote access to a physical system, and you jump and hop through a network. That is very dangerous. So how do you actually communicate that to the physical security or work with them? It takes a lot of collaboration. And then on the other hand, putting on my my criminal hat for a second, if I know that this particular bank or this particular retail outlet uses these systems, just because I'm walking into the store, or I'm walking, or I take a picture, or even I do a scan, and I find out the physical location of these particular devices, now I can come in late at night or whatever I'm going to do, and get physical access to an individual building, to steal, right? So all of this stuff is not far-fetched, in that now you have this technical vulnerability, this quote unquote cyber vulnerability that's in this door access system. So, all of these things start to pop into my head as I go about reading all of these things on a daily basis, most times a daily basis. And that just popped into my head with this intersection, and some of the things that you may want to do, especially if physical security, if you have no visibility into the physical security aspects of systems, is to ensure that they sit on a different network. Segment the network. Like, for instance, my security cameras and everything in my home are on a different network than the TVs and my children's devices and everything like that. Just specifically for that reason, you want to be able to prevent someone from getting access to one to getting access to the rest. So that is a good practice when you're trying to figure that out. But then again, if you are in a role that you're in the security operations center and you have no visibility into, you just may want to ask a question just to make sure your company's not that company, and make sure the physical security folks understand that this particular vulnerability is out there. Unfortunately, Nortec, who's the manufacturer of these devices, there is no patch. So it's just out there. So it's vulnerable, and so it's being diligent, right? It becomes a network segmentation is very important at that particular point. And then to prevent from any type of theft, you may want to have the guards out there a little longer during the day, or anything like that. If you have that concern of where those those devices are, or just lock the door. Do people use keys anymore? Maybe not. And at the end of the night, just lock the door and see what happens with that, and rely on your burglar alarm, or something like that, instead of your door access system. So just wanted to drop that bit of information on you guys. Stay tuned for the random thought. Thanks. Is it time for your annual wellness check? Cybersecurity and privacy programs, once implemented, can't get stale. It's very important that you take a look at those at least on a regular basis or semi-regular basis to ensure that you are complying with industry best practices, that there haven't been any laws implemented in your state that actually affects what you're doing from a day-to-day perspective. Whether it's, trying to figure out, do I need cyber liability insurance, and what kind of insurance should I purchase? So it's very important to take a look at those programs. If you need a wellness check, please reach out to the Cybersecurity Law Firm of Texas for help. Hi guys, so random thought for today. I'm getting into this situation where things that I've written about previously are starting to come to conclusion. So back in September, I wrote about this interesting case out of Iowa where two pen testers from an organization called Coalfire were arrested for burglary because they were physically trying to get into or break into the courthouse. Now, they were hired to perform a security assessment, and a pen test came with that. And those of us in the industry understand that pen testing comes with a physical security assessment as well. But it seemed like there was some type of misunderstanding from a scope perspective. And so when the pen testers penetrated the actual courthouse itself, burglar alarms went off. Police came, they were arrested, and they were charged with burglary and having possession of burglary tools because, of course, they had the lock picks and all this other stuff that pretend bad guys have as they're trying to penetrate some type of system. It comes back to what we were just talking about before, this mental disconnect between physical security and cybersecurity. So it doesn't matter how much you lock down your the remote access to your network, or how much you lock down the devices that you have on your network, if they could just walk through the front door and take the information the same way. And a lot of times security, again, for me and a lot of us in the defenders, as I like to call myself, it's no disconnection between the physical and cyber. When you're conducting an assessment, you want to make sure everything is up to par. But I guess within the folks that the courthouse that actually hired Coalfire didn't read the fine print, or didn't really understand that it actually came with, a physical actual penetration test. And so for all of you cyber defenders out there, all you pen testers out there, just make sure that someone in that organization understands exactly what you're going to be performing in that pen test. And if they don't want the physical, don't just keep it in the language because that's your standard contract. Make sure they understand. And if they don't want it, take it out and don't do it. So hopefully you guys will have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye. Thanks again for listening to the Breach Whisperer blog, sponsored by the Cybersecurity Law Firm of Texas. Don't forget to like this post and subscribe to our channel so you can get updates of when we post new things on our channel. In addition, spread the word for me, right? Let's get out there and tell a friend, and so they can all become paranoid cybersecurity and privacy people. Don't forget, if you would like to connect with me on socials, you can connect with me on Twitter. At Mary N. Cheney. Use my middle initial always. For my nonprofit, Minorities in Cybersecurity, that is at Mike Leadership, and Instagram and Facebook at MN Cheney Law. And you can find me on LinkedIn just by searching for my name. So if you're interested, connect with me. Thanks again. And just remember, awareness equals knowledge.